Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of SoNapa Grille, Adam Barringer, Chris Botting, and Joe Bates.
Episode 64, Grapes and Debates. My name is Adam Barringer. I am here with my business partner, Chris Botting.
Hello, everybody.
Joe Bates is not here, ladies and gentlemen. He is in Greece.
Yes, hopefully enjoying himself.
Little
family vacation.
What do they do in Greece? Do they dance?
No, they probably drink a lot of wine.
And
eat.
Ouzo or something, right?
Oh, that too.
Okay.
I mean, isn't that a derivative of wine?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it is. I think it is.
Well, we have a very special guest here today. Not necessarily in the wine business, but he does like wine.
Listen,
And
that's our kind of people.
Listen, that's enough. That's the qualification to get onto this podcast. Chad Truxall, Executive Director of the Marine Discovery Center here in New Smyrna Beach. Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah,
Yes, welcome.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the offering of wine, and happy to be here.
Well, since you said you like cabs, I'm going to introduce you to a cab. It's called Trefethen Cab. We happened to visit the Trefethens while we were in Napa this last visit.
We did.
And we got to meet John Trefethen, his wife, and their son Lorenzo. And we attended something called the Sin Party, Summer in Napa, a release of their rosé. But it was the 97 Trefethen that really got me interested in wine. I went from Meridian Merlot, and I thought that's what wine was about, $4.99 at the 7-Eleven. And then I was introduced to really good wine, and it was a 97 Trefethen. So
Yeah, that was a big leap.
A huge leap. I'm going to go ahead and pour myself before I pour my guests. It's
It's just how you are?
That's just how I am. Actually, it's because I had this in the fridge,
Okay.
so it's chilled down a little bit. That way I didn't have to put an ice cube in my wine, which is kind of what
Which
I
always
like.
gets a lot of good reactions.
It does get reactions. People can't believe I do it.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. So a little bit of Trefethen. Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
Welcome to the podcast.
Cheers.
Not knowing 100%, well, obviously I know about the Marine Discovery Center. I'll let you talk a little bit more about that. But one of the reasons that I chose this, you said you enjoyed cabs. We were just at the winery about 3 weeks ago. It is going to be a wine that will be in our wine club in an upcoming pickup.
Oh, nice.
Maybe next month. But the Trefethens, what a fantastic story. They are family-owned winery, and they were very instrumental in creating the ag preserve in Napa Valley. They were also instrumental in creating the AVA system, which is the American Viticultural Areas. The wine that we happen to have in our glasses, it's not just from Napa Valley, which is an AVA, but this is actually the Oak Knoll district of Napa Valley. I believe it goes Oak Knoll.
Yeah, it's one of the most southern parts when you come
Right.
into the valley.
I think Oak Knoll, then it's Rutherford, Oakville, or
yep.
Oakville, then Rutherford.
Right, Oakville, then Rutherford.
Right. In any event, the ag preserve.
Yeah, so it was. This was the first of its kind in the United States. They were strictly about the land and the vines. They did not want anybody to come in, any developers, to strip malls,
Subdivisions.
housing developments, anything like that. They were strictly about the space and the vines and trying to keep this more of a agricultural kind of
Preserve.
Yeah. So
And I look back to my time as being mayor
Yeah.
and sort of with what you're doing with the Marine Discovery Center is we're trying to sort of preserve our natural resource.
Yeah.
And if we would have had the foresight of these farmers and these growers back in the 70s,
Right.
it would be a much different, the lagoon would be much different. And so what the Ag Preserve did is they said, you cannot build essentially the valley floor of Napa. I think initially it started out as 26,000 acres. I believe now it's up to close to 40,000 acres. I could be wrong on that. But if you want to build a house, you have to build a house on 40 acres.
Yes.
On 40 acres. Think of that. So that preserves.
Yeah, we don't see that very often in Florida.
No, we don't. But if you want to build in the watershed district of the ag preserve, I think you need 160 acres.
Yeah,
But to go out there and to see Napa Valley in the sense that it is now, you don't see subdivisions on the hillsides.
Yeah.
And the wine industry directly related to Napa is probably worth $15 billion.
Yeah, it's staggering.
It's staggering.
Absolutely.
You know, about, let's say, $1 million comes from wine sales. I think the rest kind of comes from direct to consumer and people visiting the valley. And then you take the 2.5, 3 million visitors that come up there that spend an average of $500 per visit.
Yeah, wine tastings aren't cheap.
No. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is because the Trefethens were very instrumental in creating the ag preserve, instrumental in shaping the valley. And I got to think, man, if I would have had that vision back in the 70s, you wouldn't have a job.
Which I'd be okay with.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, agriculture, agribusiness, I mean,
Right.
the College of Agriculture is where, I came from University of Florida, and it's such an important aspect of every region, right? When it comes to conservation and how we tend to our land itself.
Right.
And that's to your point. If we do it in the right way, that is sustainable, that's also providing an economic value, and of course wine does that. But the watershed of where that land drains to, and all the water surrounding it, the lagoons, our coastal estuaries will also be better for it. So
it would. I mean, but just think, if we would have had the foresight back then to say, you know what, if you want to build a home on the lagoon, it has to be 40 acres.
Yeah.
The lagoon would probably be in much better shape.
Yeah. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, I grew up in the urban sprawl of South Florida. Right? I saw the my town that was all woods get developed, and it was just urban sprawl and strip malls and everything else.
Right.
And so when I came up here 27 years ago, it wasn't like that. But yeah, we're starting to see that.
Sure.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah. You have to take the time and tell the story.
Yeah.
But in the words of Jen Botting.
Regale us. Go ahead, Adam. Take us to Chen Botting land.
Yeah, the toothpaste is already out of the tube. The toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah.
We can't put that back
That's
in.
right.
And that leads to the Marine Discovery Center and the work that you do trying to restore what we have essentially fucked up.
And educate.
Yeah.
Really tell the people, all right, what are the problems? What are we facing? What are we about to lose? What's at stake?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do, and just to kind of think of like an ROI from conservation versus restoration.
Well, why don't we just take a step back, Chad, for the listeners? Tell us, what is the Marine Discovery Center? What do you do there? How long have you been with them? And one of the reasons that you're here, in order to educate and get more people engaged with what the mission is of the Marine Discovery Center, you said, hey, I would really like to possibly do a podcast, which is one of the reasons that led you here today.
Sure, and it's been a while since we've caught up. And so the Marine Discovery Center was founded by our former mayor of New Smyrna Beach, and the whole concept was we knew we had this treasure in the Inner River Lagoon, right? It's the most, North America's, we claim it as being the most biologically diverse. So basically we have lots of different wildlife and plants in this system. But we also know that it's economically a really important area to preserve. And so because of that, we started this nonprofit in 1997. So I think we're going on 28 years here now. And the idea, we have three pillars, and you guys have alluded to two of them, but conservation is one, and we'll talk more about that. Education, so we do everything from pre-K all the way up to college and adults and everything else. And then our final one is exploration. So when I grew up, my connection to the resource was the exploration first. It was fishing, it was surfing, it was scuba diving, snorkeling. I had access to all that, right? So because I had access to it and I saw it, then I valued that commodity. And so for us, everything that we do, we call it hands-on, feet wet. We think you can't just talk about it, you got to get out there and do it. So we have a fleet of kayaks, we have a large pontoon boat, and then we just have a series of areas how we access the lagoon. And it's everything from camp programs that we do for children to Florida Master Naturalist programs that we've been running through the University of Florida for adults. We take a trip down to the Keys once a year, and we work on marine habitat restoration projects with coral, seagrass, sponges. We started a couple of years ago here on our site, if you come onto the site. So we're on a 22-acre campus, the former New Smyrna Beach High School, which is a trip for me because I was a teacher there for 5 years.
I didn't know that.
Full
Really?
circle.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep, I taught marine biology over there for 5 years. And so, my career, for the most part, except for working at the University of Florida for a couple of years, has been within this little strip of where our boat launch is from and where our current site is now.
Wow.
I've been there 21 years, celebrated in August.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Good
Appreciate
stuff.
it. Yeah, thank you.
So, and one of the things that in Napa, and I've taken a couple of pictures of it, is fish-friendly farming. And I made a joke about it once. I'm like, fish-friendly farming? Yeah, we bring our fish to work. Hey, we're going to be friendly to you. But the reality is that they take conservation very seriously.
Absolutely.
And one of them is to prevent pesticides and chemicals from going into the watershed, essentially being friendly to fish.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's a little more in depth than just that.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, fish are what we call, and there's other species too, but sentinel species. So they sound the alarm when something's going wrong. Oxygen's crashing. If the water gets too warm, if there's a massive algae bloom, fish are going to tell us pretty much right away. There's other indicators.
Telltale signs.
But yeah, they're telltale signs, and so that canary, right? And so we fish are really important for lots of reasons. We like to catch them, we like to eat them, but they're also a food source for so many other animals that are out there, and they're just an important aspect of it. But yeah, the way we treat our land, and that's the big thing of what we're trying to do, is every time you come on the campus, we want to share the story of the Marine Discovery Center, but more importantly, the lagoon and its importance to our community. How do we protect it? The issues there's several, and of course, we don't want to overwhelm people with doom and gloom. That's not our goal. Our goal is, hey, these are the problems, but hey, what can you do? What can we do as a community, you as a visitor, can we do to help make it better?
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say, because we're grapes and debates, and I think we've got the grapes in our glass. How's it drinking? By the way,
I'm loving this.
This
I'm
is
a big-
I'm
your
enjoying
traditional Napa Cab. I'm
yep.
enjoying it.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's the grapes. A little bit about your background, about the mission of the Marine Discovery Center, and really how that kind of correlates to, in a sense, it's making a leap, but what they're doing in Napa, they take conservation, preservation of the land very, very seriously, and I just wish that we had done a better job as protectors of the lagoon. So I really give you a lot of credit. But if you do create a podcast, do you think it's more scientific or more storytelling?
That's a great question. And so, of course, we always want to share science, but we also know the reality is that people aren't moved by science.
They're not moved by it,
right?
Are you moved by it, somebody?
In a sense, yes, I am. But science needs translation.
Yes.
You need to put it into a story for people so they can understand it at a grassroots level, to get that message out, why it's so important.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about that. So interpretation is something we talk a lot about. Like, how are we effective at our interpretive styles and making things relevant, relatable, right?
Sure,
Those are really important. Storytelling is a big part of that.
Like, if you get an 8-year-old little kid that's coming through and you're like, hey, listen, do you know the water temp is up 1% because of climate change?
Right.
That's not going to...
Because all that phosphorus is leading into the water.
Yeah, I mean, that's science.
Yeah.
But if you say, do you know there was a sick dolphin that we had to take care of? And be like, what?
Right.
Sick Yes. because the water is a little bit too, that storytelling.
I'll just share quick. So one of our very
Okay.
first camps, we came across a dead dolphin.
Oh,
And that was probably 22, 23 years ago, right? And we were on an necropsy team, so we actually took that dolphin. We got the approval with the permits and all that. We towed it back to the center, and we did a necropsy on it. Now, we told, so necropsy is when you do an autopsy on another animal, right? So we told all the kids, okay, here's what's going to go down. Like, we're going to be cutting into this animal. And so.
Wow. I'd love to watch that.
It was super cool. But some of those kids, as soon as that first cut happened, right, and the gases, kind of happened, there was some decomposition going on. Those kids scattered, except for a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
But some of those kids still come back today as adults with their own kids.
No kidding.
One of them's a paramedic here, a firefighter, here in local NSB, and her kids come into our camp, and she shares that story. She remembers that story, right?
Wow.
So
Storytelling.
to your point, storytelling's huge, and just creating those hands-on feet wet memories, right? Because that hits you at different.
I like that,
emotional
hands-on
levels.
feet wet.
Yeah, my kids both went to the camp.
Oh, very cool.
Both
love
Marin
that.
and Declan. I can't remember if my daughter Alex went. She was probably a little too old by the time you guys came around on the scene.
Yeah, that's really cool. What years were those? Do you recall?
Oh gosh, that would have been 2012, maybe 2013.
Okay. So I probably wasn't teaching the camps then, because when I first came on, I was a volunteer, but then eventually I taught our camps.
Yeah.
Became the director back in I think 12.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah, no,
Very
it was.
cool.
Yeah, no, they had a great time. I remember picking them up. They didn't want to leave.
Yeah, I love
I was
that.
like, "Come on, we gotta go. We gotta go," and they didn't want to leave.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I would say then, was there a debate? Is it science or is it storytelling that you need more of? Because if it's science, we got to add a lot of shit to this podcast, right? Because we tell a lot of stories.
Yeah, a lot of storytelling, but you got to get the message across. And
I think.
Hey, this is Adam Barringer, host of Grapes and Debates and founder of SoNapa Grille. I want to personally thank you for supporting our podcast and dining with us at SoNapa Grille. In honor of our special guest, Chad Truxall, Executive Director of the Marine Discovery Center, we're celebrating Member Monday on June 30th with a complimentary glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Just mention code word MDC. We look forward to raising a glass with you soon. Cheers.
I think it was relayed to me that my mom said that, in fact, sometimes we just talk a lot of shit and never really get to the point on anything. And
well, we're hovering at that 30,000-foot level.
Okay,
I
okay.
mean,
Well, hopefully we
never
brought
get,
some.
We never get too granular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've talked. I mean, I remember just in college, of course, it's all the rigor and everything that you have to go through, and but then
Mom, the team ratted you out.
That's right. But it's like, how are we going to really make this, something that's going to stick? And for us, it's the experience first.
Sure.
And then that experience, then we can couple it afterwards. We can sit down and, hey, how did, that decomposition occur in that dolphin? Or why did that dolphin die?
Right.
What does that dolphin eat? How is that impacted by water quality? Mm-hmm. And then you start relating the story and the experience to the science. And I think that's where we got to start versus just, to your point, put on a bunch of science.
Yeah. You can't go right into the science part. You got to tell the story.
All right. So we have the expert on the lagoon. Let's hit him with a you think of a question. I'm going to give you an idea of a question.
Gosh.
Chad, oysters. What's the best wine to serve with oysters?
Oh gosh, you're hitting me on that. I mean, I am a consumer of wine, but pairing wise,
okay.
I can't.
Whatever wine you like.
I mean,
whatever wine's in your
I'm
glass.
Go with,
okay, perfect. Okay, hit him.
I guess what are some of the things that the state legislation is doing now in our backyard to help us preserve this gem that we have called the Indian River Lagoon?
Yeah, the governor did propose $100 million support in the budget, and of course we know that the budgets are being debated right now.
Actually, I think they figured them out yesterday.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Where we landed.
Where you landed?
It was down at 50. I think Congress was at 0. The House, the Senate was at 50, and then I don't know where it landed.
Okay.
But we'll see. But there's no doubt that. From a legislative perspective, the lagoon has been on the forefront of looking, hey, we know we need to invest in this in both infrastructure, utilities, conversions from septic to sewer. and stormwater and just other things that, hey, it's antiquated in some areas, right? Still, even in NSB, there's some things that we got to upgrade. We got sewer systems going right by houses.
Did you know that, and this is back when I was mayor, that cities are allowed to discharge so much sewer or
treated sewage
shit into the lagoon. And I mean,
it boggles, like they call it the total daily maximum load, right? And there's a level that we're
recently
allowed to
Edgewater. I think
how many gallons? I mean,
it was like
tens of thousands of gallons.
500,000 gallons a day or something. I mean, it was crazy,
right?
And I don't know the numbers.
Number.
I mean,
Wow, that's insane to
crazy.
To try to think about.
But think of every city that is on the lagoon.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Has the ability to.
We are just up the chain from South Daytona and Port Orange.
I mean, it's all connected. Right?
Absolutely.
There's no barriers that are saying, okay, it's just the Mosquito Lagoon, or it's just Halifax.
No, and New Smyrna for the longest time.
And even further south. I mean, we're all part of the problem.
But I like that from sewer to septic. It needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we in the beginning,
seepage,
it's not. Yeah, it's going to happen. Their systems are antiquated. They're not taking care of drain fills. It's going to happen. It's maintenance, it's money, and everything else. And so the collective of all of that, ends up, becoming an issue. And we can't point to it. We don't know exactly where it's coming
There's
from.
There's no one silver bullet. There's a lot of things.
A lot of moving parts.
Fertilizer for the lawns and the septics
And I think going back to California and that that comparison, it's a culture.
It is.
It's a culture of yes, wine, but also the land and the importance of the land that helps that taste of that wine and the reason that we value this so much. But also it's that culture of how it's important to protect the land,
preservation, and
all that is interesting under us is the land.
And there was another family, the Palissa family, and Andrew Hoxie, and the wines that they produce, Ghost Block, Elizabeth Rose, and Oakville Winery, and we attended the 120th anniversary of them farming the land. And what his goal is to be a steward of the land, to leave it better than where he found it, better than where his family found it. And they take those. That's cultural within the family. But I see that only because I heard it directly from his mouth. But that's how the cake breads are. That's how so many families are. And it's Trefethens. And it's just really cool to hear out there. And I just wish that we could have done a better job here in our little area.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to mention that's kind of cool that we have going on, you guys may have tried some of our local farmed oysters, right? So the fact that that's an aquaculture operation, and we're seeing more of that. So you have these smaller, groups, that are basically, doing a sustainable aquaculture, business in our lagoon.
Okay. And the water's not too warm for that?
So that's a good question.
I would imagine, right?
So you can harvest as long as the algae bloom. You can harvest year round with oysters as long as you're chilling them right away, right? That's the key point. Is that right away you put them on ice or you get them in refrigerated. The whole months with R and all that
that's
stuff.
what that's
with refrigeration and modern, the way you can harvest year round. It's really all about what is the quality of the water where you're harvesting those oysters.
Yes.
And summer times tend to be more algae blooms and so forth.
The more the water's moving around. I mean, it gives them it's a hotbed for
lots of things.
For a while, they were doing the clams down by JB's. Are they still doing that?
Yeah. Mike Sullivan.
But he's up north now.
He's up north. Commander Seafood. We actually are working with
St.
him.
Augustine,
He's up in Flagler.
Sully.
Yeah.
Commander Seafood. We got to get him on the podcast.
He's a great guy. So we work with Mike and also a University of Florida professor, Todd Osborne, and we're actually growing at our center through their operation and ours, both clams and seagrass.
Okay.
So we have an active system pumping through about 16 raceways we're pumping water from the lagoon into these raceways, and then you have the clams first that are filtering and growing.
Yep.
But his purpose in this case, it used to be food, and that was the primary focus. But in this case, it's a very specific genetic
seed
of a seed, but also of the clam itself that survived. Do you remember that brown tide event that we had?
Yes, yeah.
And so this particular
Wiped them all out.
It wiped them all out. This particular clam survived.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's what we're focused on. So not for food, but for getting them out for restoration. We want to pump those clams out. So there's actually like...
You know what? That's almost like the American rootstock that survived phylloxera.
Yeah. Right.
Sully, you're onto something big here. You're onto something big.
Yeah.
But it's super cool. They actually use, like, for deployment, they'll use like this gigantic 5-foot drone that flies a pattern and just disperses
drops
the
them.
clams.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That is so cool.
So modern technology taking over.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But that's happening right here at the center, and so there's some cool stuff when it comes to aquaculture and how we could improve the lagoon through that.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're so glad that we had you on here. I think it was very informative, Mom. I'll let you be the judge of this one. But what's really neat is that we're going to be able to edit this podcast, take the clips. I'll make sure you get a copy of all the clips. Maybe I'll put it on a thumb drive. It'll just be easier for you. And anything we can do to help you achieve the mission of the Marine Discovery Center, we want to do that for you.
Yeah.
Free of charge.
I appreciate that, guys.
Goes to a great cause.
Well, listen, as we end every podcast, it's taste, toast together. That's our tagline.
Cheers, everybody.
So, boom.
Cheers.
Dad, nice meeting you here.
Nice meeting you. Absolutely. Cheers.